We typically view the universe as a linear historical timeline, a story expanding outward into an infinite empty void. But an infinite void offers no resistance to maintain the coherence of information. To prevent the loss of data, reality requires a recursive containment system, a structured field that never collapses and never leaks. We can identify this outermost containment boundary as the mathematical set B. In the Quranic framework, this boundary is mapped to verse 2255, the Kursi, or footstool. The verse identifies the Kursi through the property of total wakefulness. Neither slumber nor sleep seizes him. In a computational sense, a system that never enters a state of rest is a system that never powers down its memory. It is a constant maintenance of state that prevents the dissipation of energy into heat death. Because reality is held within this constant maintenance field, existence is not a random outward expansion. It is a constrained computational process happening entirely inside a closed system. Inside the Kursi, reality is generated by a specific repeating loop. This is the master equation of that loop. The first operator is the 2, bifurcation. It represents the initial splitting of a uniform potential field into dual measurable states. The 3 is traversal. This is the triadic biological algorithm that processes methane by the split. The second 2 is the hidden fold, the unseen structural counterweight that balances the visible world. Finally, the 7 is stabilized return. This is the closure condition that forces the entire system to loop back to its origin without losing information. These 4 steps form a universal instruction set. To understand reality, we must sequentially architect this exact engine. We start with the empty phase space inside the containment field, ready to inject the variable. We activate the first 2 in the equation, D10, the visible bifurcation. D10 is the detectable world of forms, matter and energy, day and night. It is the fundamental binary split of creation. This binary split is linked to the coordinate 714, completed them with 10. This signifies the fully manifested physical domain. This initial bifurcation creates thermodynamic friction. The universe requires a mechanism to process these dual states before they rip the system apart. The solution to the friction of duality is the traversal operator, the 3. This operator functions as a biological algorithm. It is comprised of water, the tree, and the fruit. Water, anchored to verse 2130, acts as the continuous transmission medium. It provides the kinetic energy for the loop. The tree, anchored to verse 1424, provides the organizational structure for that energy. As the tree grows, it generates opposing vectors, an upward phototropism seeking light, and a downward gravitropism anchoring to mass. This simultaneous up-down vectoring perfectly reconciles the divergent geometry of the initial physical split, binding opposing forces into a working structure. To complete the algorithm, the system produces fruit. Fruit serves as a discrete closure node. It carries the exact memory of the original seed, returning to the start of the stream to inform all future computational loops. This biological return is anchored to verse 2260. Biological growth is a rigorous topological mapping, an algorithm designed to process fragmented data and return it to a unified state. But there is a flaw in the visible system. If a tree only grows outward, phase drift occurs. The sequence would eventually unravel into chaos. This introduces the second 2 in the master equation, the hidden field, I9. Anchored to verse 1825, which describes an increase by 9, this field acts as a latent structural counterweight. It continuously shapes the orientation of the visible tree's growth. While this field cannot be directly measured, its influence on the visible domain is decisive. This leads to the final step of the equation, the 7, the closure harmonic, R19. When the visible and hidden fields lock together, they generate a stable closed orbit. The math of this invariant is exact. Visible completion, represented by 10, plus hidden completion, represented by 9, stabilizes the system into 19. This constant, found in verse 7430, acts as a topological tuning screw. It forces the physical orbit to close back on itself. Because of the 19 invariant, the universe operates as a piecewise dissipative circle map. No matter how far data is scattered by the split, The closure harmonic ensures total conservation of mass and origin memory. This master schematic has been hiding in plain sight. Verse 2435, the light verse, is a perfectly formatted systems architecture map. It's a compressed holographic blueprint of the 19-locked universe. The niche maps to the bounding container. The glass enclosure maps to the visible dual caustic field, D10. The blessed tree is the traversal operator. The oil, which glows even if untouched by fire, is the unseen hidden field, I9. And light upon light is the resulting stabilized return, the closure harmonic, R19. Every variable of the engine is present in this schematic, proving the framework is a singular, cohesive system. But one element is missing from this schematic. A continuous dynamical system requires an active execution node to run. That node is the human observer. The structural condition for entering this physical loop is forgetfulness, anchored to verse 2115. Forgetfulness is a structural condition, the thermodynamic friction of a consciousness crossing the dual caustic boundary into a physical body. If the node remains dormant, the observer experiences the system as a chaotic, linear decay. You perceive an endless drift away from your origin. To prevent this, the system contains a manual override, an activation trigger designed to phase lock the observer to a return trajectory. That trigger is verse 1912. Take the book with strength. The universe's recursion is mathematically guaranteed, but your individual alignment to that return loop requires manual, conscious activation.